recovery has been a priority for the government and people of Nigeria for about a year now, and understandably so, since the announcement that the country had plunged into recession. Now, the presidency presents the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, a medium-term document to cover 2017 to 2020. The ERGP, as the government calls it, has three broad strategic objectives that will help achieve the vision of the government, and they are restoring growth, investing in people, and building a globally competitive economy. The plan has so far received accolades from economists, but even this comes with a level of skepticism. Nigeria has had exciting and promising plans before, and the result has been less than what was desired. Now, what makes the ERGP different, especially as the country still continues to struggle to get out of recession? Well, that's what we'll be discussing on Big Story. I'm Amy Thompson. The almost 200-page document is not just generating conversation, but has birthed a new ray of hope in the strategy against recession. The intention of the president is that the plan articulates the vision of the country for the period 2017 to 2020 and lays the foundation for long-term growth with the underlying philosophy to optimize local content and empower local businesses. The actualization of the ERGP is built on principles which include focus on tackling constraints to growth, because the country has been facing various supply constraints, including fuel, power, foreign exchange, and business. Another principle is the leverage on the power of the private sector. They also intend to allow markets to function, as the government recognizes the power of markets to drive optimal behavior among market participants. The plan prioritizes the use of the market as a means of resource allocation where appropriate.
Even though the ERGP outlines up to 60 initiatives, it focuses on 5 execution priorities, and which are central to achieving the 7% growth projected by the end of the plan period. These are namely stabilizing the macroeconomic environment, achievement of agriculture and food security, expansion of energy infrastructure, particularly power and petroleum, improving transportation infrastructure, and driving industrialization, principally through local and small business enterprises.
It talked about macroeconomic stability. If you are considering macroeconomic stability, then you have to have an alignment between your fiscal, monetary, and trade policies. We do not have that today. Obviously, some of us have been calling for it. Personally speaking, I've been calling for flotation of the currency. And these are some of the things that need to be done urgently, so that foreign investments need to flow in, or rather flow can happen both ways. Even exports, where people's export proceeds do not disappear, they would rather be happily be repatriated back into the economy. So all of those are things that are silently addressed in the document, or maybe because I haven't gone farther into the document itself.
Targets of achieving 7% growth by 2020 is another area which the Nigeria Economic Summit is not very sure of.
It's a tough call. 7% growth is something that, if all engines are on fire, if we do certain things, we could clearly articulate it. Not with the current scheme of things. You have to do certain things. You have to be creative. We have to think outside of the box. Those sort of things the details of those sort of things are lacking in the document. But I do believe that this is a listening government, and I do very strongly believe that this government, if we give them the right help and support, they would be able to listen and take it and run with it.
The plan outlines bold initiatives such as ramping up oil production to 2.5 million barrels per day by 2020, privatizing selected public enterprises and assets, and revamping local refineries to reduce petroleum products import by 60% by 2018. The ERGP builds on existing sectorial strategies and plans such as the National Industrial Revolution Plan and the Nigeria Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan. In implementing the plan, the government will collaborate closely with businesses to deepen their investment in the agriculture, power, manufacturing, solid minerals and services sectors, and support the private sector to become the engine of national growth and development, an idea which had the various sectors contributing to the document.
And so it went as far as including other OPS, organized private sector members. We had people in the National Assembly involved and at the state level. So it was actually a bit inclusive, much more inclusive. Because again, the key issues we're looking at is that first and foremost, Nigeria haven't found ourselves in a recession. How do we dig our way out of recession? And what should be our focus? And so that's the main thrust of what the whole agenda was all about, that we then should be talking together as one. And in terms of one, we mean all the stakeholders, whether you are the monetary side or you are the fiscal side, whether you are, whatever is your level of governance, whether you are the subnational level or the federal level, whether you are legislator or executive, that Nigeria as a country itself should have a focus. Then we can engage wherever we want support from, whether they are within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So to a large extent, it was a lot consultative.
The states have a significant role to play in the success of the ERGP, and some have already adopted a number of initiatives being promoted in the plan. However, they have the responsibility to win the private sector over as required in the plan.
The plan is a national plan. Hence, the role of state governments is critical to its success. I therefore wish to appeal to the state governments to draw inspiration and strategic direction from